All right, hello, and welcome to my presentation on my teaching style that I chose that I believe would be best and most effective for our current playing program with 2 to 6 year olds with ASD. So I chose differentiated instruction as my teaching style. This instruction style is student centered versus teacher centered. It comes with being open minded, having a positive attitude, and also a willingness to modify and adapt learning for the students because of all students' different needs, and especially this group because they will need modifications with their physical abilities and their learning environment. So this is really important. So this is just kind of a very general breakdown of the biggest aspects of a differentiated instruction style. The acronym is STEP, and so it stands for space, so a bigger or smaller playing area, kind of seeing what you need to work with and if you need to adjust your playing area. Time, more or less time allowed to complete a task, so some students may need more time and some students may need less time to complete the activity. Task, different task individualized to students' needs, so this is important when teaching playing athletes because each one is different, just like other gym classrooms with all kinds of students. Every student has different abilities and needs different things, so differentiating the tasks based on the student. Equipment, different or modified equipment to help all students experience success and access to learning. And lastly, people, how you group pupils for games or skill practices. So something that we learned about working with kids with autism is that it's important that they are in an environment with other students who don't have autism so that they are able to learn in that normal kind of environment and see different ways of movement and how different people move. It will increase their self-confidence and kind of be able to model off of you and other students. So this is just a quick little breakdown of this instruction style, but we'll get more into detail. So there's four main components of differentiated instruction. There's content, which is what is being learned. Process, how are students acquiring their information. Product, how are students demonstrating their learning. And then lastly, learning environment, which is the where and with whom are students learning. So first up, content. A little quote that I saw online about this portion is learn, practice, demonstrate, and more practice. So this kind of sums up how a PE class should go with the differentiated instruction style, and it's just learning, practice, and demonstrate your skills, and just keep going in that cycle. So some big components of the content area for this style would be to help students kind of see their deficiency areas in movement skills and physical fitness. So kind of breaking down where they could improve and what specific components of movements they could improve upon. So this could be as simple as if you're teaching students how to do a push-up and they are like flaring their elbows out to the sides like crazy, and you're like, well, let's make that a more efficient push-up for you, and this is a little spot that you could improve upon, which is bringing your elbows in more, right? So that's a deficiency area they could work on. Next is modify the learning process to meet students' needs. So this kind of goes with, I think, thinking on your feet and also knowing your students and kind of knowing where they might lack in terms of the learning process, and just adjusting your instruction and maybe how you explain things and the time you take to demonstrate things. Third is to build on students' strengths. So while you are going to help them identify the deficient areas in their movement skills, you also want to highlight their strengths and where they really kind of exude like great movement skills or fitness skills. Maybe they're really good at dancing, so you can highlight how agile they are or kind of help them build upon that. And then lastly about content is to provide multiple opportunities for formative assessment. And this just means that you're going to kind of make these assessments not all the same. So don't rely on one way to assess your students, and give different opportunities, whether that's even just a conversation with your student on how they think that they're doing or what they think they could improve upon. So the next area of DI, as we can abbreviate, is process. So this is to have a variety of instructional strategies, and this kind of ties in with what we know about scaffolding, but their terms are tiering or cubing. So this is kind of like breaking things down, and a great example and opportunity for tiering or cubing would be station-centered activities. And instead of just saying, hey, we have this lesson today, we're going to do 6 stations, and each station will be a different strength movement. So like push-ups, 1, squat, 2, etc. So instead of just having it like that, to be more DI, at each station you would have choices and modifications for that one activity. So if you go to that push-up station, the students are going to have choices, and their choices are going to be of different calibers of how hard this push-up is going to be. So you might have wall push-ups or push-ups from the feet, and they can choose. This isn't something you tell them to do. You don't say, hey Charlie, you need to do a wall push-up, or however. This is up to them. So this is really important for DI style. Also effective questioning, and also flexible groups. So how you group your students and having the flexibility with who goes where. The next component is product, and this just breaks down. We're talking more about using several assessment strategies, and 3 of these examples would be conversations, observations, and products. So conversation assessments would be something like interviewing your students, or small group discussions where they may pair up with somebody and kind of share, what was hard about the activity or something. Also large group discussions, which we do a lot in playing, with nutrition, answer questions as a large group. Or just having quick debriefs after a game. And we can do this as coaches in playing, is just debrief with your athlete after a game. Observation assessments. So this could be more like student journals or student peer assessments of a movement skill or fitness skill. Maybe some checkpoints and stuff like that. And then lastly, products. This is more about, this is getting more detailed, which could be like video or audio recording, photographs, physical demonstration of performance of a chosen movement skill or fitness skill. So those are something that might need more time invested to do this type of assessment. But in general, DI, this style wants several assessment strategies available for you. The 4th component of DI is the learning environment. So you want to make sure it's student-centered. And we learn about teacher-centered versus student-centered. And teacher-centered, an example of a style like that would be more of the authority style, which is kind of I guess you could say, old school of what we think PE teachers kind of act like. And so we're doing the opposite of that in DI style. Make sure your gym is physically and emotionally safe, and also make sure it's relevant. So the biggest thing about this is kind of the way that I understand this style and would try to incorporate it is to be more invested in your classroom and in your students. So getting to know them, getting to know about their different cultures and things that they identify with or enjoy. And that could even be like pop culture, I know that Sailor Moon is coming back in style, and you could decorate your gym with different things like that, or celebrate holidays that your students might be celebrating. So, and we could do this with playing too. We have stickers, and we could get stickers that represent the children and maybe things that they're interested in. So just kind of making the learning environment more cohesive and like a nice little warm bubble. So some ways that DI can be used in health and PE classrooms. I kind of touched on this earlier, but station activities are a big way that you could use the DI style in the gym. So like I said, if you're doing circuits or stations, making sure that each stations have choices and modifications and also movements that may be harder, and allow the students to self-monitor and self-regulate as they go along. And also, the biggest thing is to know your students on a personal level and keeping your classroom culturally relevant and responsive to their needs. So, in a health classroom environment, this could be where you decorate with posters based on students' cultures and genders, giving them inspiration and helping them to feel seen. So something that I would maybe do is, like, in my PE office, get fat heads of all kinds of professional athletes and make sure that I have, some women, some men, different sports, not just like, for example, I like baseball, so I'm not only going to have baseball players because it's not about me, it's about my students. So I'm making sure that I represent everyone and make everyone feel included. So let's stop here and reflect for a minute. What is a way you could incorporate the differentiated instruction teaching style into playing when working with the athletes as a coach? So if you have someone near you, you could share your ideas to this question and then write down how each of your answers were different and share it. I know that going forward, if I wanted to incorporate the DI style more in my instruction with working with the kids at playing as a coach, I would maybe make more time for asking them questions about themselves and getting to know them on a more personal level, figuring out what's important to them, and maybe trying to figure out also, do they feel like they're struggling in different areas with their fitness or like their movement, seeing what's hard for them. This is a young age group, so they might not understand fitness so much, but they can understand, skipping is hard, right? So we could look into different ways of adapting that and making it easier for them to learn how to skip and improve on that movement. And then also kind of making sure that you're building on their strengths that they already have. So if you see a kid in playing that's like really good at sprinting, right? And you could like stop and have a conversation about this and say, hey, I see that you're really good at running. Like you have a good form and speed and everything, and I want to let you know, like, do you realize you're good at running? So I would definitely kind of incorporate more of the interviewing assessments that DI talks about, and also just kind of getting to know the students on a deeper level and just incorporating some of these components more. Because I definitely think this instruction style is really well rounded and works really, really well in the PE and health environment. There's a lot of resources that speak on this, especially since, whether students have ASD or not, everyone has different levels of understanding and abilities with their physical fitness and their movements. And there could be deficiencies as they get older, and you want to make sure that you catch those as a PE teacher and kind of help them out so that that doesn't become more apparent as they get older. And so they're more confident in their physical abilities, and therefore they can, continue with their fitness as they get older and feel good about themselves. So this was my presentation on the teaching style that I would use, which is differentiated instruction, and thanks for watching.